question. How many half-used beauty products are currently living in your bathroom drawer? Too many, right? That's where U Beauty comes in. We test everything from supermarket finds to luxury splurges and tell you what's worth it. U Beauty, saving your skin and your wallet. Listen now wherever you get your podcasts.
You're listening to a Mamamia podcast.
Oh, hi there. It's me, Claire Murphy. We hope you're enjoying well and our exploration of your pelvis. In our last 4 episodes, we've done some period myth busting, delved into endo, PCOS, and asked and answered some of your burning questions. So in this episode, we're sharing a really moving, no-filter conversation with reality TV star Erin Barnett. After gracing our screens on Love Island and I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, Erin shares her difficult journey with endometriosis and polycystic ovarian syndrome. She talks about her life-changing decision to get a hysterectomy at age 28 and how many doctors tried to change her mind. It's such a remarkable story about women advocating for themselves and their body, and we think you'll really enjoy listening to her story.
How many surgeries have you had because of your gynecological problems?
17.
Before we get into today's conversation, I just wanted to note that we are covering one woman's story, and we do go into medical details about her experience. But if you're finding yourself in a similar position, please consult your doctor for advice. Imagine having multiple doctors deny you a life-changing surgery that would relieve you from years of chronic pain, all because they were concerned that someday you might change your mind about becoming a mother. 4 weeks ago, after a lot of persistence and years of begging, Erin Barnett finally entered hospital to have her uterus removed. And today she joins me to explain why she made the decision to have a hysterectomy at just 28. From Mamamia, I'm Mia Freedman. You're listening to No Filter. And if you watch reality TV, chances are you've come across Erin Barnett because she's been on Beauty and the Geek and I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. And she's also big on Instagram. And ever since she's been open about her health struggles with endometriosis and PCOS, her following has grown really fast. Because for a bunch of young women like Erin, she puts words around things that they're feeling and experiencing. Erin has been pleading for a hysterectomy since she was just 18 years old. But she was turned away by doctors who just didn't believe her when she insisted that she didn't want to have children. Not now and not in the future. Erin's story is remarkable because it raises a bunch of questions about who a woman's body belongs to. Is it her? Her partner? Maybe her future partner? Or her future children? Even if she doesn't want any. And why wouldn't anyone believe Erin when she said she didn't want kids? Here's Erin's story. Erin, I want to start in a doctor's surgery when you're 14 years old and a doctor is asking you in front of your mother, who is sitting with you, if you're sexually active. What was going on that particular day?
Well, I had a very abnormal looking stomach. So I did look about, 4 or 5 months pregnant. And I was not sexually active, but I had a boyfriend. I just started seeing him. So my mum was like, please. And I was like, I swear to God, I'm not. And they did 2 pregnancy tests in front of my mum. And I was like freaking out because I'm thinking, hang on, maybe I am pregnant. Like maybe I'm the next Virgin Mary. So I was like freaking out. And obviously it came back negative. And then they said, oh, we'll do some scans. And I was like, okay. And they were like, she has a massive cyst because it was like rock hard. So when I laid down, it was like I was pregnant.
If it looked like you were pregnant, had you noticed your stomach growing? Like you obviously knew you weren't pregnant because you weren't having sex.
I knew I wasn't pregnant and I thought I was just fat. I remember laying down and I used to like hit my lower belly to be like, why can't I get rid of it? And then I used to like push on it and see what I would look like with a flat stomach.
Did it hurt?
No, it didn't hurt. That's the thing, is it didn't hurt me or anything. And I just had really bad crampy feelings, but I just thought that was normal. And then when we got the scan, they were like, it's a massive cyst. And then I had the surgery and I was cut from like hip to hip like a cesarean. And they said that they had to drain it. And it was about 3 kilos, like a few litres of fluid before they even got anything out. And I was like, shit.
When did you get your period for the first time?
I was almost 15. So just before my surgery, because I had PCOS. And they said that's probably it. But I had like spotting a year prior before I even got my period.
Can you explain what PCOS is for people who don't know?
So it's polycystic ovary syndrome, and it's where your ovary produces cysts either on the inside or the outside, and it looks like those popping things that those kids use. You know, they pop it in and they pop it out. It looks like just a bunch of little cysts all over your ovaries.
Oh, I've got one right here, fidget toys, like this.
Yes, like exactly. That's exactly what it looks like on your ovary,
God.
just not so colourful.
Here's one I prepared earlier, Erin, but not so great on your ovaries.
No, not so great on your ovaries, no.
And what are some of the symptoms of PCOS? How might somebody know if they had it?
There's so many different things, and it's when I say it, you'll be like, maybe I've got it, because it's just so standard. So you can gain a lot of weight. It's hard for you to lose weight. Facial hair is another big thing. You'll probably get more facial hair than the average woman. You get bad acne. You can get some hot sweats as well. Feeling really tired, lethargic all the time, and delayed periods, or really, really tough periods where you're on the floor and you're in a lot of pain. When I was diagnosed with it, we just thought it was normal because my sisters and my mum, they were always on the floor with a lot of pain with their periods. So I was like, oh, this is just normal.
Wow. So the operation, that's major surgery. I mean, at any age, but when you're that young, how did you recover from that? Was it tough? And then you got your period.
Yeah, it was really tough because is it like called a curette where they clean you out as well? So it was like my period didn't come properly. Like, because I said that she's got her period apparently when I had the surgery, and I knew I had spotting, but I didn't know that I was about to bleed heavy. So they cleaned me out and I was like, oh, you can just go in and get washed out. And the surgery recovery was okay. But the doctor I had, he was on the news, he was on A Current Affair, and he actually fled Australia because it's like bad stuff that he did at the hospital that I had it at. And he ended up coming back and now he's in prison. So the surgery, like the scar is really bad, the way I was cut. And he put in a 7-day catheter in me when it should have been 24 hours. So the catheter is a lot bigger. They said that my mum couldn't stay overnight, and I was like, that's fine, because we just lived around the corner. But this nurse woke me up to take out my catheter, and she didn't deflate the balloon. And I don't know if anyone knows what a catheter is. Like, it goes up where you pee and it pees for you, and there's a balloon that inflates so that you can't be pulled out and it can stay put, and you have to deflate it before you pull it out. And she didn't deflate it. And as she was pulling it, I said to her, oh, this is really hurting. And she said, that's fine, just breathe. And then she's pulling it where the balloon is now, making its way down a tiny, tiny hole. And I screamed and I said, no, this is really hurting. And she put her hand on my mouth to shush me and kept it there. And I was trying to sit up and she was pushing me down on my chest, and I was screaming and crying, and then they pulled it and I passed out.
Oh, Erin.
Yeah, when I woke up, I was just in agony and I was crying and screaming. And then I had a morphine pump. So it's like a buzzer. She pressed the buzzer for me, like, so that it would go through my system, which is also like, I don't think that's legal. And that helped with my pain, but I was bleeding and it's like a UTI, but just blood, peeing blood.
Oh my
crazy.
God.
So that was really hectic.
That's incredibly traumatic after you're recovering from major surgery.
Yeah. And because I didn't know, I've never had this before. So I was like, wow, why would anyone get a catheter? Like, this is horrendous.
You said you had a boyfriend at the time. You were sort of 14 turning 15. That's the kind of age where you start to discover, you know, your sexuality, and you start to do those things with boys. Listen to me, do those things with boys. I sound like a Birds and the Bees book. And how did this affect how you were feeling about your body and about sexual pleasure?
I was just so oblivious. Like, I was like, I actually don't even know what I'm doing. Like, I thought I did, and it was like a real reality shock, because I was like, I don't actually know. And then I'm like, all these pains and emotions that I'm feeling in my body, are they normal? And it was just like a really bad start to my sexual life.
Yeah, I can't imagine, well, I shouldn't assume, but 14 and 15-year-old boys, that was probably a little bit above his pay grade, dealing with all of that.
He was 2 years older than me. So he had a girlfriend prior to me, so he knew what he was doing, but I didn't. And then after the catheter incident, like, I just didn't want to do anything ever.
I'm sure. Did you start to associate everything around your vagina and everything with pain and agony?
Yeah, all the time. Yeah.
And trauma.
Because then I started getting really bad UTIs because they had ripped my urethra lining, and it does come back, but it's like really bad. So it was horrendous for like 2 years afterwards, and I was really prone to any infections, and it was awful.
And sex can aggravate that too.
Yeah, and that's why you have to, like, 'cause obviously they say that you should go to the toilet after you have sex, and then everything was irritating me, and I had to be super, super careful with the soaps that I used, or even like the detergents in the washing. It was just annoying.
When did you lose your virginity after that?
When I was 15, almost turning 16, I was 2 months away from turning 16.
And how was that experience?
Yeah, that was good actually. I had Googled though, like what to expect and what happens. And then I saw like images where it was like, you'll bleed and there's like an elastic band thing that breaks. And I was like, oh my God. And then when it happened, I did bleed, but it wasn't that painful because my partner at the time, like he was very nice, and I was very nervous because when I used to watch movies, you would see like sex scenes and you're like, oh, that looks so nice and passionate. And then when it's your time to do it, it's more like, hang on, wait, just wait. It's nothing like that.
So true. Were you terrified? I remember being terrified.
I was so scared, and I was like, we used condoms, right? But I was still like, I think I'm pregnant. I was like,
same.
Is that possible? There's like this 0.01% chance you might be pregnant with a condom. So I was like getting pregnancy tests and stuff. And now looking back, it's like you couldn't get pregnant. So what a waste of money.
Hello, friends. It's Holly Wainwright jumping into your ears, not literally, that would be weird, to tell you about the next season of Mid and how it's all about you. You see, over the last 5 seasons, we've talked about everything on Mid, from marriage and divorce to hormones and fashion and sex and grief, life, right? And we've had so much feedback from you about your own messy middles that we have decided to make a season all about that, about you and the challenges that you're facing. The next season of Mid is all about dilemmas and wisdom and sharing both those things. And I am phoning in my friends to help. Hopefully, we're going to sort it out. And me and my more qualified mates, we are really going there. Mid, Conversations for Gen X Women Who Are Anything But, is back in your ears with your questions on Tuesday, July 15th.
I'm pleased to hear that you were able to enjoy, sexual exploration and developing sexually, because for a lot of women who have gynecological problems, that's just not the case.
Yeah.
I was diagnosed with PCOS around the same time, probably when I was about 15 or 16. And I remember my gynecologist at the time, my mum was so mad because he said you should have children early, you should have children young. And my mum thought that was just so irresponsible for him to say that. Were you given similar advice?
Yeah, exactly the same advice actually, because after I had that first surgery, it's just like that was a snowball effect for my life, because then I had another cyst, and it was actually a dermoid cyst, which is a hard rock kind of cyst, and it has like hair, skin and nails in it. And it takes a long time for it to grow.
Okay, wait. So is that hair, skin and nails? I've seen pictures of these cysts. Why did it have hair, skin and nails?
When he told me, because my radiologist or whoever it was said there's hair in there, and I was like, what? When I had the surgery, he cut it open and he took a photo and he showed me, and the hair was black, and I'm like mousy blonde. So I was like, that's so strange. Does that mean that if I had a baby, the baby would have black hair? And they said that it's just like a follicle, half developed, half not, and it just gets stuck and it just starts to grow. But these take a long time to grow. They don't just, it takes like a year or longer to start to grow them. Because my mum, we didn't have a lot of money, so we always went through the public health system. So it took a while to see someone. They said that this would have started to grow or probably been there when I had my first surgery, but it just was missed.
Wow.
My first surgery was the right ovary, and then the second one was the left ovary. So whether or not the surgeon just didn't bother looking at both my ovaries, but I've had 2 dermoid cysts before.
And they're not pregnancies, are they? They're not like pregnancies or miscarriages or…
No, they're just cysts. There's like 1,000 different cysts you can grow, and I've grown like every single one of them.
How were your periods as you went through your teens?
Oh, terrible. And I had really bad acne, like so embarrassed. And my periods were like really, really heavy, and they would always be irregular. And the pain, I was always in so much pain. Got to the point with my acne that I started having to go on like antibiotics, and then they didn't work. And then I went on the pill. The pill was working. It was good not to have a period because I hated it so much. And then I had to go on Roaccutane for my acne because it was so bad. And they did say that there is a chance that this medication can form cysts, and you have to get like a blood test. Women have to get a blood test before they get on it. So I don't know if that made my cysts worse or what, but it took my acne away. So I was taking it.
When you had your periods, were they very painful or very heavy or both?
They were both. I was bleeding through everything, and because I was younger, I didn't start using tampons till I was almost 17, and that was just so frightening. The first time using, so I was always using pads, and I was always having to change them like every hour or less than an hour, like abnormally heavy. And my mum used to say, that's fine, that's normal, your sisters do that, I have that too. And I was like, oh, okay. And we didn't have social media back then, so it wasn't something you would just ask someone. Like, you would Google it, but you would be too scared to even put that in your search history that you're Googling about this stuff. So you just thought it was normal.
When was the first time you heard the word endometriosis?
I think it wasn't until I was like 18, 19. But the thing is, my second surgery, the gynecologist said to us, and I'll never forget it, it looks like she's got something we call endometriosis, but she's really young, so there's nothing, don't worry about it. And I remember that, and I was like, cool, like, I don't care. And my mum remembers it, and so we just kept having surgeries and that. And then when I was finally diagnosed, I said, I got told about that when I was like almost 15, but they said it doesn't really matter. And they said, no, it does, because you got it everywhere. And then obviously I wasn't seeing the greatest gynos, because then now that I'm 28, I realized that the way they were doing it, like burning it off instead of like digging it out, just causes more issues. So having really good healthcare at the start would have probably benefited me, but we couldn't back then.
When you say I kept having surgeries, so is that because you kept developing new cysts? And how would you know that you developed a cyst and that you needed more surgery?
Well, this is the weird thing, is gynecologists probably think I'm crazy, because I would know that I have a cyst before any scans. It's like I could feel my ovary. When I walk, I could feel my ovary pulsating on my left side if it was the left or the right. If I coughed, I could feel it like bulging out. I just knew I would have it. And a lot of women, we do have cysts and you won't even know it, and they will just go away on their own. And that's completely normal. But with mine, they just kept growing and they wouldn't go away. And then it would be really painful, and it was getting too large, and I couldn't manage the pain at home. So they would say, we'll operate and we'll try this new drug, or I'll do this new technique. And it just wasn't working. And then I would have cyst ruptures. And then that's when I was like, okay, this is getting completely out of hand now, because I've never had cyst ruptures. And when I did, I thought I was dying. So it was just really frightening.
What does a cyst rupture feel like?
It feels like someone's poured boiling hot water inside your uterus. It's excruciating, and it comes on so quickly. Like, you could be making dinner, laying in bed, and you don't even know what's triggered it. But when it happens, you can pass out from the pain. I've been so almost at the brink of passing out, and then it's like you lay down, put your legs up, and you're hunched over, and then afterwards you can have like so much blood come out of you that it's really frightening. Or you can have blood bleed internally, which I've had, and my most recent one was in February this year, where I had a cyst rupture, and I was worried because the pain was so bad, but I wasn't bleeding. And I was like, that's so weird. And then I started to bleed a little bit, but not as much as this. And my stomach was just, I looked 9 months pregnant. And then when I got the internal ultrasound, they were like, you've got a lot of blood and a lot of fluid forming on the outside of your uterus. And I was like, so what are we going to do? And they said, well, we'll keep an eye on it. It should just absorb into your body. So it looks okay at the moment. But if not, then you have to have surgery to clean it all up. But my body just absorbed it. But it took a while. Like, I was really ill for like 3 weeks.
Erin, you seem like a really no-nonsense person. Like, you seem like you're a very positive, just sort of get on with it person. Did all of this have an effect on your mental health, though, and your self-image and how you were feeling about your future?
Yeah, it did. I became a bit isolated because my sisters, they have PCOS, and so does my mum. But my nan had endometriosis, and my sisters did IVF to have children, and they never had surgery. So I was like, why is this happening to me? And what have I done so wrong that I have to go through all this? And then it caused stress between my mum and I, because it was becoming like really expensive, and I wanted just to have surgery like now, but it was too expensive and we would have to wait, and I would get mad at her because I'd be like, why can't we just pay for it today? And I understand looking back, like it was so expensive and it's still expensive now, but it just made you feel really isolated.
Do you mean that when you'd need surgery to remove cysts, you'd have to wait until you had enough money to afford the surgery?
No, I would have to wait for your turn in the public health system. That was when one of the doctors said to us that you should either look into falling pregnant between 19 and 21 or freeze your eggs between 19 and 21. And, you know, at 19, you're like, I'm not doing that. Like, I'm having time, partying, you know, carefree kind of life. And looking back, it probably would have been good to do that, but we could not afford egg freezing at that age.
How much does it cost?
It's like nearly $10,000 for one round, because I was looking into this like 2 years ago again, and the doctor that I spoke to, she said that they want to have at least 19 follicles in the first round of when they collect it, and if they don't get 19, then you have to do a second round. And I was like, is that included in the price? She's like, no, that's like you pay that again. And I'm like, when I found out it was almost going to be like $20,000 just to collect them. My private health insurance, it's annoying because they cover for IVF, like some of the treatment, but not just for storage. They want you to use it to actually get pregnant. So I wasn't eligible to use them. And I was like, that's a really grey area because it says that you're covered for IVF, but that's for pregnancy, not just to store them and like collect them and store them.
Can you explain what endometriosis is?
So endometriosis is where the lining, similar to the lining in your uterus, not the same but similar, grows outside of your uterus. And it can actually be found nearly everywhere in your body, but it's mainly on the outside of your uterus, near your bowel, bladder, on your fallopian tube. And what it does is when you have a period, your body reacts to those hormones to tell your body that it's time to shed the blood. And wherever that endometriosis is in your body is also reacting to those hormones. So if you're cramping from those hormones and you have endometriosis on your bladder, it's going to cramp there. So you're feeling pain everywhere. And then, you know, you have your period, you shed your blood, and that's cool, but you've still got the blood everywhere else. It kind of like goes out through your fallopian tube out into the body and just stays there. And it looks like leeches. That's what it looks like to me when I first saw it in my body. I'm like, it looks like leeches.
And what's the pain like? Can you compare it to anything?
It's so painful. Whenever I try to explain it, it's just like burning, stabbing, a stretching feeling, like because when you're like your belly is swollen from cramping, it just feels like a balloon, and it feels like your body can't possibly push out your stomach anymore. And it's a really uncomfortable feeling. You can't get comfortable and you feel like you can't breathe because you're in so much pain.
How long does it last? Is it constant or is it intermittent?
It can be random. You can have a really good day where you're like, oh, I think I've got a flare up, but it's not that bad. And then other days you're like bed bound, you can't walk, you can't eat. You can even like be really nauseous, throwing up because the pain is so bad. It can last a week, a day. Like that's the thing, it's such an unknown thing that you can't prepare for it. You can't be like, oh, my period's due tomorrow, I'm probably going to be sore in a day or two. Like it's so unknown. You don't know. There's no time frame. And it ruins your life because you can't schedule your life around anything and it can happen at any time. So you literally have to be prepared 24/7 for what might happen.
So it's not even like my period's due on the first week of the month, that week's going to be hard. It can come at any time.
It can come at any time and you don't even have to be on your period. It's just so frustrating because it ruins so many events, and that's when you start to become isolated, is when you start cancelling places, staying home instead of being out with your friends, or you leave halfway through an event or a birthday or a wedding because you're in too much pain. And because people can't see your endometriosis or PCOS or adenomyosis, it doesn't look like you're in that much pain. So it's like, oh, really? You're really that sore? And you're like, yeah, no, I need to cry because I'm in so much pain. Yeah, it's an invisible disease.
Erin, how do you work?
That's the problem, is it can be really hard to work. So I work from home online, and I'm lucky that I can do that at home because there's no chance, maybe now after my hysterectomy, possible, like it might be possible, but I would have to have heat packs. I would have to be on pain medication where I cannot leave the house, and I have to be laying in a certain way because I'm more comfortable, or I have to have pillows like this. Like there's no way you could have a normal full-time job, but some women, they just push through because it's their life. They have to. But it's not just a bad period. Like it's really worse. It's horrendous.
Up next, Erin shares the very first moment that she considered having a hysterectomy and how she finally made the decision to give up the idea of ever having children.
Parenting podcasts can be a bit earnest. Parenting Out Loud is not that podcast.
This person who I may not agree with politically is trying to talk about integrating children, not just into his professional life, but into public life.
I have referred to myself as one and done. That article did make me rethink the term.
It took about 11 seconds for this to go viral.
Oh God, is this the ejaculate one? That is deranged and I love it.
Parenting changes the way you see everything. Parenting Out Loud takes the big conversations of the moment and puts them through that filter.
Because if parents are thinking about it, we're talking about it.
Parenting Out Loud. Listen weekly wherever you get your podcasts.
When was the first time that you thought to yourself, I just want all of this out?
When I was probably around 23.
Did you tell your doctors that, and what was the reaction?
Oh, everything. I said, what do I have to do to get a hysterectomy? They said that I don't need it. They'll figure out how to manage my pain. Look into egg freezing first because it's all about wanting to have children. But then they also were like, but we can't take your ovary out. I've only got one ovary left. So even before my hysterectomy, I only had one ovary. And I just want everything out. So I was telling everyone, and I was going to all these appointments trying to find a gyno that would help me. And maybe if I have surgery with them for a cyst, they will see how bad my history is and maybe give it to me. But I got dropped from so many gynecologists every time I would say that, oh, this is what I want next. And they were always like, sorry, I can't help you with that. And they would palm me off to the next gyno.
What reason would they give?
That I'm too young and that they don't feel comfortable performing that procedure on me.
How did you feel about that?
Oh, just frustrated because one of them said to me he's had so many women try to sue him afterwards or come back to the clinic and get really upset and depressed because they wish that they never got the hysterectomy because they really want children now. And I was like, well, that's not fair because that's not me. And now I'm paying for someone else's life. Like, because they're upset, now I have to suffer. And I used to say, I'll sign a contract. I'm like, I'll sign a contract that I won't sue you and that I won't get mad at you. And they were still like, no, that's not how it works. Because I think in writing, it probably looked bad on them, like, 22 or 23-year-old hysterectomy without any like cancers or anything like that. Getting it now at 28, I literally cried because I also got told 3 years ago that it looks like I've got adenomyosis. So endometriosis pretty much inside the uterus wall, the lining and all that. And I was like, okay. And he's like, but we can't fully diagnose you until you get the hysterectomy because they have to take a biopsy of your uterus and examine it. And they can't do that while it's inside of you. And I was like, oh, okay. So what do you do for that? And they're like, you just more medications, try and treat it. And then after my hysterectomy now, when I spoke to Martin Healy, he told me that the pathology has come back and I did, in fact, have a bad case of adenomyosis. So it was just like a cherry on the top knowing that I did the right thing because I was just suffering all the time.
I want to go back to the aspect of doctors not wanting to give you a hysterectomy in case you wanted to have children in the future. How did you feel about the idea of not carrying children and not conceiving children? Were you reconciled to that early? Was it a dream you had to give up?
When I was younger, I always said that I wanted 2 girls, like twin girls. I said I never wanted a boy. And then as I was having more and more operations and then getting told like you'll probably have to do IVF, you'll probably have to do this, and all the pain I was going through, like I think I must have put a wall up or just accepted the fact that this isn't my pathway, like I'm not going to have children in this lifetime. And I've never gotten sad about it. I've never cried about it. And I think it's because I'm associating that like with pain. And when you've gone through what I've gone through, the last thing you want is to have a child. And I used to say to my mum that there's a 50-50 chance I might have a girl. And if I am just having a child because I'm being told that that's what you do and, you don't know real love until you have children, and then I have a girl and now she's got PCOS, endometriosis, and I have to watch her go through what I went through when I really didn't have to have her. And I could have stopped this by knowing that what I'm about to reproduce is going to suffer in a lot of pain her whole life. And it's just not fair.
So when all these doctors were saying to you, we can't take your pain away because you being a mother in the future is so important that you have to suck it up. Is that essentially what they were saying to you?
Yeah, and they were saying, do you have a boyfriend? And if I said yes, I'd be like, how does he feel? And I was like, I don't give a shit how he feels. And whenever they'll be like, you're too young, you might change your mind, you know, you never know, women change their mind all the time with this stuff. You know, one doctor said to me, you might go to a baby shower one day and get super clucky and you'll be thanking me that I didn't take your uterus out. And I'm like, who the fuck says that? Like, no, I don't get clucky at all. Every time when people say, oh, my ovaries are hurting when they see a cute baby, I'm like, my ovaries hurt 24/7. This baby's making it worse. Like, I don't like that. So I associate it really different to when people say that. Mine is completely different.
It's really interesting because as a young woman who's grown up with the idea that it's my body and it's my choice and that you have control over your fertility, this feels really weird to have men or anyone saying, we know what's best for you. You're not allowed to decide how much pain you want to bear.
Yeah. And one of my gynecologists when I was younger said to me, don't worry, this gets better with age. And actually, it's gotten worse with age. I was hoping that when I was like 20, it was going to get better, but it just got worse. But things started really escalating. Once I turned like 23, I was almost 23, it just went downhill from there and I don't know what happened. And I was just like, every gynecologist I was seeing, I was like, hysterectomy, please, a hysterectomy. And they were like, no. And they said, we want to try and get you to as close to 30 or 35 as possible before you make that decision. And my mindset has never changed. And a lot of women that I've spoken to that have had hysterectomies told me that, you know, just be careful about the first week out, a post-op, you might get really depressed and down and you'll cry and you'll mourn and you'll grieve about your uterus and the loss of having children. And I haven't. Like, I have not cried. Once I got the diagnosis of adenomyosis with the pathology coming back, I was like, I fucking knew it. I was like, oh, see, I knew it. And I was like, I could have gotten this out years ago. And if anything, I was so frustrated that I didn't have this done earlier because I probably would have been so much better off.
You do have a partner now. How long have you guys been together?
So Mick and I have been together for 5 years, but we've known each other for about 6 years.
Mick's got kids.
Mick's got 3 kids. He's got 2 girls and a boy.
And couples, when they get together and things start to get serious, will often either in a fantasy way or in a real way talk about the future and what we call our kids and will we have kids. Did you and Mick do that?
No, because we didn't really need to because Mick's older than me. So Mick's 19 years older than me. And do you know what's really strange is I remember I saw a psychic and she's a really good psychic. And she told me that I was going to have kids. And she said I was going to have 2 girls and a boy. But she said to me, and I've got it on recording, she said to me, it's so strange. And I was like, what's strange? And she's like, I can't see you giving birth to these kids, but I can see you with these kids. Like, these are your kids. And I was like, that's weird. Like, who knows? And then I met Mick and I was like, well, you've got 2 girls and a boy. So maybe that was just like the life that she would see for me. And when I met Mick, he said to me, do you want to have children? And I said, well, I don't think I can. And he said, but you know, there's different ways women can have children, but if this is something you want. And then so we discussed it because he didn't want to have any more kids. And if I did, he was, you know, saying that he doesn't want to take that away from me, which is really nice. And I said, no, I do not want children. So we are perfect together. And he always says to me, are you sure? Like, are you okay with this decision and all that? And then now being with me for 5 years and actually being next to me in and out of these surgeries, he gets more angry for me than I do. Because he's like, this is just bullshit, the shit you have to go through, and can't fathom why no one would give me a hysterectomy. But we had that discussion quite early on and I didn't cry. There was no emotion. And I think it worries me when people say that I should be emotional and I'm not emotional about it. But when you want something so much, it's like winning the lotto for me. Like, I've wanted this for so long and I finally got the golden ticket.
Do you remember when you were finally told that you could have a hysterectomy?
I do. The only thing I was annoyed about was I was home alone because I wanted to tell Mick so badly, and I cried on the phone to him and my gynecologist, and he said, are they happy tears or sad tears? And I was like, happy tears. I was like, I can't believe you're actually going to let me do this. And he said yes. But it wasn't that easy because I had to go see a psychiatrist to make sure that I was sound mind and I was mentally stable to make this decision. And then I had to go get a second opinion. And then I had to see a pain specialist and a pelvic floor specialist. And so I had to wait quite a long time for all this to happen. And I had to do all this stuff prior to see if that helped before making this decision. And it's all expensive too. Like any of the surgeries that I've had, I paid nearly over $30,000 out of pocket just for these surgeries, where if I look back and they just gave me a hysterectomy at like 20, I wouldn't have paid that much, and I probably would have had a really good life during my 20s. It's just all been surgeries. I think I've spent more time in and out of hospital than I have at like birthday parties or the beach or anything like that.
How many surgeries did you have in your 20s? Or how many surgeries have you had because of your gynecological problems?
17. And in 1 year, in 2019, I had 4.
And each one of them's major surgeries with general anaesthetic and recovery.
Yeah, and the pain, like post-op pain, every gynecologist that I seen was like different. They had a different technique. They did different stuff. And when I look back, I just think to myself, I just went through so much, and some of the surgeons that I saw were so bad, and I can't believe I even picked them. But when you're that desperate for surgery, like to try and help your pain, you'll just pick whoever's available.
What does your stomach look like?
So I've got tattoos now across my stomach to hide all my scars, but that actually was probably the worst decision I made, because every surgery I've had since I've had these tattoos, they've ruined it. They've ruined my tattoos. So, and it's so embarrassing because I have this tattoo at my belly. It's like a lotus flower thing, and it's meant to lead up to my belly button, and there was that much of a gap. So quite a big gap between where the tattoo ends and my belly button starts. And because I've had surgery that much, the tattoo is now in my belly button. Like it's all the way in it. And I'm like, oh, I don't even know what my belly button used to look like. It looks nice now, but it's been operated on so many times.
It's interesting what you were saying about all the hoops you had to jump through before you had the hysterectomy. If you wanted to have IVF or if you wanted to have an abortion, you wouldn't have had to go through those same hoops, would you?
No, absolutely not. And my argument was always, if someone's pregnant, I wouldn't have to go see a psychiatrist to make sure that I would be mentally okay to be a mum. But because I didn't want to be a mum, I had to make sure that I was mentally okay not to make that decision. And that just baffles me, because you think it would be the other way around with other people's circumstances, whether or not they needed to see a psychiatrist. But no, so you have to make sure you're not crazy to make that decision. But you can get pregnant and have 1,000 babies, and that's fine. But if you want to have no babies, that's really concerning.
During your 20s, you became a reality TV star.
Yes.
What TV shows did you go on?
My first one was Beauty and the Geek. That was really fun. And then I went on Love Island, and then I went on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. And, you know, my endometriosis pain in that didn't really start that bad. Like, it was bad, but until like probably a month after I came off Love Island, that's when it was like hectic. And I don't know why. Some people reckon it was like stress induced, but I was like, I don't know. I haven't done enough research to see if stress can make your endometriosis worse. So it was interesting.
When you're on camera every day wearing swimsuits and things, what happens when you've got an incredibly heavy period or you're in a lot of pain? How do you manage that?
I wore a tampon 24/7 on Love Island, literally 24/7, because I knew that I had really bad periods. I knew even though I was on the pill that I would still bleed through sometimes, and I didn't know it, so I would wear tampons. And like, even if I wasn't bleeding, and do you know how bad that is for you? Like, to pull out a dry tampon, it's so painful, but I was like, that's worth it, because you're in bathers all the time or you're in the pool. And it was just becoming like exhausting, because I remember like I would try and cut the string off so you couldn't really see it. So then I'm trying to dig for it. So that's painful. And just all the lengths I used to go to try and be like semi-normal, so I didn't bleed heavy or bleed on your towel or bleed in the water, you know, because you don't know what angles the cameras are on, because the cameras are all around on the roof and stuff. You don't actually see them all the time.
Did you tell them before you went in, and were they helpful and supportive?
I did a medical, so it said on there that I had endometriosis and PCOS, but I just kind of like downplayed it because I wanted to go on it. So I was like, it's not that bad. It's totally fine. And then when I went on I'm a Celebrity, it was a lot different, because people now knew who I was and that I had these problems. And then I started getting really bad pain. I had my left ovary removed a month before I was on I'm a Celebrity. When I went in there, I think it was like the second week, I started feeling a lot of pain in my right ovary. So they got me a hot water bottle that I was using, but you only see it once or twice during the show. I had to take like some pain meds and stuff there because sometimes it was just so painful. And then I actually had a blood clot come out of me while we were walking back from one of the trials, and it went all down my leg. It ruined my shorts. Like it like burst. And I remember I grabbed it from my shorts and I kind of like threw it, and I was like, oh, and Ryan and Miff were there and Darren, one of the producers. And I was like, oh my God. And I just remember all this blood on my hand. And I was like, that was like a clot. And they're like, oh my God, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, but I'm in a lot of pain right now. And I'm like, this really hurts. And I remember that I had to take my shorts off to give to them to clean like properly because we had to do our own washing in the sink. But this was like blood. There was blood everywhere. It went down my leg. It went into my socks, into my shoes. And they were like, are you sure you're okay? That's not okay. I'm like, it happens all the time.
Did you feel embarrassed in that moment?
No, I just was like, oh, I don't give a shit anymore. I'm like, I just wanted to have a warm shower. I was more annoyed that I was in the jungle because I was like, I just want to have a warm shower. And now I've got to have a shower and it's fucking cold and there's bugs everywhere. And I told everyone what happened. And they were so nice. Like before they got me a hot water bottle, Miguel and everyone around me used to fill up my drink bottle with hot water from the fire, and I used to put that into my pants to help with the pain. And they used to always be like, do you need me to fill it up? And then when I got the hot water bottle, they would just come over and grab it off me and refill it. Like everyone was so nice.
Oh, that's beautiful. And also they weren't filming that when the blood clot came out. Like the camera wasn't on you, was it?
No, because we were walking from where they drop us off to the camp, and then the only time they were filming is when we walked under that bridge thing and we were telling everyone what we had to do in the trial.
Erin, it's been 2 weeks since the hysterectomy. How did you feel going into the surgery and how do you feel 2 weeks later?
Pre-surgery, I was so nervous, and I've never really been nervous for a surgery, but I was Googling and I started being a part of these hysterectomy forums, like pages, support groups on Facebook, and that was the worst decision I ever made because it was just pretty much horror story after horror story. People telling me, you're probably going to have a catheter in, and I always refuse a catheter before surgery. I tell them I don't consent to one unless it's a life and death situation. Like I said, if I can live without it, don't do it. But if I'm going to die, put one in. And they said that, their bladder was nicked. They have to have another surgery. Their bowel was nicked. They have really bad infections. And I was just so scared. And I started thinking to myself, is this really what you want to do? Like, are you sure? I know that this is what I wanted for so long, but then I'm like, yeah, but what if you end up with a catheter for the rest of your life? Or what if you have like really bad complications? And I was just so scared.
But you were scared of complications, not scared of this means I'll never be able to conceive.
Oh, yeah, no, I couldn't care about that. No, I was just scared about having a catheter in. That was mainly my only concern. Once I knew that they said sometimes they do put catheters in, I was like, please no. Like that would probably be the only reason why I would have cancelled is if I was 100% certain they were going to do that because I didn't want a catheter. And what if? I remember the first thing I said when I opened my eyes, because I had a drainage tube in the side of me. So that just helps with the trapped gas. Even though it hurts so much coming out, it works. And I remember touching my body and I'm putting my hands down like where your vagina is because I immediately wanted to see if I had a catheter, and I didn't. And then I remember saying, they were like, Erin, are you in pain? And I was like, do I have a catheter? Do I have a catheter? And they're like, no, you don't. Are you in any pain? I'm like, yeah, I'm sore, but as long as I didn't have one. So it was really good. I was really well looked after, and we couldn't get my pain under control for like 2 hours, but that's always normal.
Now that you've had a hysterectomy, does it mean you're pain-free?
Well, it definitely means that I'm going to be at least 50% pain-free because I think a lot of my pain wasn't just from my endometriosis that they would cut out, but from my uterus that had the endometriosis in it. Like that makes so much sense. And now that they've taken that out, it's like guaranteed you're not going to be in as much pain. But I would take even 20 minutes to be pain-free. If they said you'll be 20 minutes pain-free, like after surgery, I'll take it. 1% pain-free for the rest of my life, I'll take it.
Wow.
And, not having to prepare my life around bleeding, it's almost like I don't actually know what to do right now. I kind of feel like I'm in a bit of limbo because I'm so used to being in pain, having heat packs on, taking painkillers. I'm a bit confused on like when I go down to the shops now, I'm like, oh, I should go home. And it's always like, why? And it's like, oh, because I might be sore. So I'd rather be home. But it's like, you don't need to do that anymore, Erin. Just, stay outside a bit longer.
Just finally, Erin, conceiving a baby and carrying a baby and giving birth is one thing. Being a mother can happen in lots of different ways. I know that for a long time those two things have been inextricably linked, and the idea of being a mother has just been so connected to your insides and to excruciating pain. Have you drawn a line completely? I mean, I know that you are a stepmother to mixed kids. You have time with them, and I imagine you're somewhat of a mother figure to them, or you have a relationship with them. Something like surrogacy, something like adoption. And I don't want to sound like someone who's like, you won't be complete until this happens to you. But I'm just wondering if you think that might be something, or it's just motherhood in general has just never been for you.
I just think that I just don't want to push something that isn't meant to be. And with mixed kids, I'm not really that mother role because I wouldn't dare take that away from another woman, and their mum is very much in their life. And so I'm more like an extra bonus person where like I kind of look at myself as like the fun auntie that they tell all the secrets to, like the stuff you don't go and tell your parents.
Yeah.
But I don't really have this motherly instinct, and maybe that's because I've had so many surgeries since I was young, so it's kind of drilled into me that problems. So I've just kind of not given it a chance. But I don't think that I would want to have like adopt a baby, or even if Mick and I weren't together, say we broke up and I'm single, I still don't think I would go down that route, only because, you know, it's just not meant to be. I just feel like this is just not meant to be. And if I'm okay with that, I want everyone else to be okay with that. But when people ask me this question, they ask it with like such sadness. Like I'll be like, oh, I can't have kids. And they'll be like, oh my gosh, are you okay? How are you dealing? And I'm like, dude, I'm fine. I'm like, are you okay? Like I feel more bad for them that I have to tell them that.
I'm so happy for you that you got the operation. I'm so happy that
Thank you.
Your pain is now manageable. You just look so happy.
Yeah, I really am.
I'm just so pleased for you that you finally got to have the control over your body and your life that you've wanted for 10 years.
I know, it feels unreal at the moment. I don't think it's settled in yet that I actually have taken charge of my body and somebody listened to me.
Thanks for listening to my conversation with Erin Barnett in this episode of No Filter. If you're interested in learning more about Erin's story, you can read our cover story via the link in the show notes. And if you enjoyed this conversation, please share it with a friend, or maybe you might want to buy them Erin's book, Endo Unfiltered. This episode was produced by Emmeline Gazilis and Cassie Merritt, with audio production by Madeline Joannou. I'm Mia Freedman, and thank you for having us in your ears.
Such an emotional journey and an incredible story. We hope you enjoyed it. If you're after more women's health news, Well is your full body health check and drops every week on a Thursday. Coming up, we delve into the mind, including episodes on ADHD, anxiety and depression, and burnout. So make sure you stay tuned right here to Well, wherever you get your podcasts.
Mamamia acknowledges the traditional owners of the land we have recorded this podcast on, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. We pay our respects to their elders, past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures.